إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. You know, we live in a very weird world today, yeah? صح? I mean, the world is really, and I'm not saying just from what I see on the news or, just from what I read in the paper. I travel, I spend time traveling from country to country, and it gets harder and harder every year to do this work of entering in and out of countries, especially in the West, going throughout Europe, going back into America. This next time returning home on the 18th will be my first time going back into a Trump America. So wallahu alam how that's going to pan out when they ask where are you coming from. I'm coming from England doing 2 weeks worth of Islamic speaking. Why don't you come over this way? We have some, I'm already expecting that, but this is the world we live in. Yeah, it's a very, very confusing world. And one thing that it's hard for me to press upon everyone that I'm able to sit in front of is that we're not going to be able to figure this whole thing out ourselves. This world is based on deception now. This is the system of a Dajjal. This is the system that is a precursor to the system of Dajjal, where he will rule by deception. Things will seem as one way when they're actually another way. Look at the world today. This is what we live in. But we do have to get a grasp and a grip on our view of current affairs in the world and how we play our role. And that begins with our vision of how we view the world. How we view the world. You see, when a lot of these things started happening, and you would hear so many different Muslims, so many different speakers, so many different ulama have such a different perspective on these current events, and you would have information coming from all different angles, and every different person had this different way of looking at it. It became confusing. So what I did was I tried to go back to the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ and formulate from reading the different stories that are out there from our Prophet ﷺ, going all the way back to the compilation of Ibn Ishaq and things of that nature, to the new ones, Al-Rahiq Al-Makhtoum. But what I was looking for as a student of psychology, that was my major in secular studies, was psychology. And I didn't take psychology as the easy way out, as a lot of uni students do. Psychology is the easy thing, just get on through, breeze on through. No, I really wanted to understand how the human mind worked, how people formulated opinions and viewpoints and religion and things of this nature, because they helped me in what I wanted to do, which was to be a da'i, inshallah. So when looking through the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, I want to get a glimpse of his viewpoints, how he viewed the world in different points in his life, how he viewed the world before receiving prophethood, how he viewed the world and how he viewed people during his persecution in Mecca, how he viewed the world after his hijrah to Medina, how he viewed the world when Muslims were in defeat, like after the battle of Uhud, how he viewed things after victories, how he viewed things when Islam began to spread, and even how he viewed things during the very last few months of his life when Islam was so blossoming in the Arabian Peninsula and elsewhere. Because if we say that we follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then that begins with our way of thinking. Because we know that the first hadith in Al-Bukhari, narrated by Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh, was that every action is based according to its intent. Every action you do will be judged by Allah based according to the intent you had when you did it. And everyone will receive the reward of that which they have intended. It's a very beautiful hadith, but it also has a very serious connotation if you understand it from a psychological perspective. Because that means everything we do boils down to our niyyah, our intention. How do we formulate intents? How is it that we can control the intentions that we formulate to make these decisions? Even before an intent is made upon an action, there is something that precedes every single human action. Anyone know what that is? It's the basis of every human action. A thought. A thought. A thought. Everything begins as a thought. The synapses and electrodes in your brain formulating a thought. Now, there are many thoughts that go on through the human mind. All day, your mind is constantly running. If you ever become cognizant of your own mind and sit down and just think, just clear your head of anything and just start realizing and being cognizant of the thoughts that are running through your mind, you'll surprise yourself. There's all kinds of stuff going on up here all day long. But those thoughts that we have, we either act upon them, thus forming an intent to do action, or we push them away and thus negating that thought, and it never becomes an action. This is how shaitan gets to mankind, is through this waswas, these thoughts that are coming into our minds, either whether it's directly from shaitan or even from our own lower evil part of our souls that we all have, that shaitan that is with us, giving us these ideas to do things that we know we shouldn't be doing. And we also know that if we possess that thought to do something evil and we don't act upon it, we get rewarded for it, alhamdulillah. So becoming cognizant of our thoughts, the viewpoints that we have, is the basis for how we are going to deal with the world today. And when I look at the overall viewpoint and psychological standing of the Muslim ummah towards the world today, it's very negative. It's very negative. And this is something I never saw in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. This negativity that we have, this complaining attitude that we have, this attitude of doom and gloom that you see the ummah having today, where everything is against us, everyone is against us, everything is bad, it's all bad. I mean, trust me, sometimes that's exactly what I hear from Muslims. How is everything? It's bad, it's all bad. No, I've never seen this from our Prophet ﷺ. That was because of his viewpoint of the world. And this is something that inshaAllah ta'ala I'm working on with a number of help from scholars and things of this nature, is to formulate a small book about the psychological viewpoint of the Prophet ﷺ when it came to different matters, when it came to dealing with his friends, his enemies, when it came to dealing with the non-Muslims, when it came to dealing with the elderly, when it came to dealing with the younger than him, when it came to dealing with all sorts of areas. How did he view and what was his outward viewpoint on the world? For one thing I will tell you is that his viewpoint on the world was from the viewpoint of da'wah for the entirety of his life after prophethood. I wish I had the time to go, this is a long course that I do on the psychology of da'wah, but his entire viewpoint of the world from the time he received Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa until the time he left this world, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him the last verse, وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمٍ تَرْجَعُونَ فِيهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ, his viewpoint of the world was da'wah based. Was da'wah based. The way he looked at his friends was based upon da'wah. The way he looked at the enemies of Islam was based upon da'wah. The way he looked at the leaders of the world was based upon da'wah. When he woke up in the morning, his mind, his thoughts were upon da'wah. When he slept at night, even though the very little he did sleep, was based upon da'wah. His relying on his worship towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fulfilling his trust to Allah to worship him. Other than that, he was focused on the da'wah. With his wives, with his children, with his friends, with everyone. And this was who he was. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about him. دَعْيًا إِلَى اللَّهِ بِإِذْنِهِ وَسِرَاجًا مُنِيرًا. That he was a caller to Allah by Allah's permission and a lamp giving beautiful light. Allah even commanded him to say, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِ. Say, this is my way. I call to Allah عَلَى بَصِيرًا, upon sure knowledge. Me and those who follow me. And glory be to Allah, we are not of the mushrikeen. This is what Allah commanded him to do. And this was the key to his success. This was the key to his victory. In every aspect of his life, was that his life was a vision of da'wah. No matter how many people oppressed him, no matter the names that they called him, no matter the slanders they put out about him, no matter how many armies gathered against him, his mission was still to continue upon this path of da'wah. This is why he was able to do it with such beauty and with such charisma, that even his enemies who harbored such hatred towards the Muslims still held deep found respect for him, and many of them admitted it after entering into Islam, like Abu Sufyan and others. There was no way they could get around the fact that they had some profound honor and respect for who the man alayhi salatu wasalam was. This was the honor that Allah gave him because of the da'wah that he performed. And after him were the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in. They followed in his footsteps, and he left them with that mission. You see, there are parts of the seerah that we as Muslims have known all of our lives, but we fail to put it into context. You see, the world today is not suffering from a lack of knowledge. The information age is out there. You have the access to find pretty much any hadith about the Prophet ﷺ from your smartphone, if you have the will to do so. The problem is we don't know how to put information into context anymore. We see things so many times that we become deadened to them, and we don't really understand how to relate that to real world scenarios anymore. That's a problem. It's a problem. How many of you know about the last sermon of the Prophet ﷺ? How many of you know about the last sermon? The farewell sermon. Every Muslim knows this from childhood about the farewell sermon of the Prophet ﷺ. It's one of the most authentic, if not the most authentic narration to ever be passed to us from the Prophet ﷺ, related from so many chains that it's undeniable that this took place. And one of the most beautiful versions of it, or one of the most full versions of it, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah collects in his Musnad from Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu an, who was standing right next to the Prophet ﷺ. So we know this very well, but we fail to contextualize things sometimes, like this farewell sermon. We fail to realize the honor that Allah bestowed upon this ummah on that day. Allah gave something to this ummah on that day that He had never given to any other ummah before us. Every other ummah before us, Allah says in Surah Tabayyinah, after their prophets passed away, what was their role? What was their role? They were not commanded but to worship Allah, make the religion pure for Him. قِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ وَأَتُّ الزَّكَاةِ وَذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ. They were commanded but to worship Allah, make the religion pure for Him. Establish salah, pay zakah. That was the right way for them. Why? Because another prophet is coming. I'm going to send you someone else. Their job was only to hold on to the message until the next prophet came. And they sometimes had problems even doing that. So Allah gave those ummahs that responsibility. Just hold on to the message. Just hold on to it. I'm going to send you another prophet. But our Prophet ﷺ, our Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, was Khatam al-Nabiyyin. He was the seal, the end, the closing, the final of all messengers. Therefore, some new prescription had to come for this ummah. Because it's not as if Allah could tell you, hold on till the next prophet comes. There's no more coming. So during the farewell sermon, which we don't have the time to go through, which is like the heart of Islam, it's a synopsis of the entire deen. And the Prophet ﷺ gave some very sincere advices within this. He was one of the first ever in recorded history to stand up and abolish racism. Ever in recorded history to stand up and say that a white person is not better than a black person. An Arab is not better than an Arab, and a non-Arab is not better than an Arab. A black is not better than a white. But the best of you are those who have the most taqwa. Those who have the most consciousness and protection that you put before yourself from the punishment of Allah. He also abolished riba. Don't cheat one another in business. Don't set up a system like we have now that is going to come crumbling down because it's based on falsehood. It's based on deception. He encouraged us to look after women. He's speaking directly to the brothers. Women are caretaking in your hands. Be careful on how you treat them. All kinds of things He advised us about. But during the very last statement of the farewell sermon, He gave some heavy commandment. And this is one of the ones that we fail to contextualize. He looked at everyone that was in front of Him, and He was very adamant about the importance of this speech, because He called everyone and said, look, pay very close attention to what I have to say, because I do not know whether I will be with you again on this day, at this place, after this year. So it was very important that everyone listen. At the end of this sermon, He looked at everyone in front of Him, and He said, those of you who are here today, convey this message to those that are not here. Convey this message. Pass it on to those that are not here. For truly it may be that the one you tell it to may even understand it better than you. That's heavy, because no Prophet ﷺ had done that before. No Prophet had looked at his ummah and said, continue to convey the message after me. I'm giving my job that I did to you. You see, our Prophet ﷺ was commanded by Allah. After Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa, the next verse Allah revealed to him, Ya ayyuhal mudaththir, qum fa'andir, warabbaka fakabbir. O you who is wrapped in the blanket, get up and go warn mankind. This became his job. And he did it to perfection for 23 years. And at the end of his life, when he felt was coming to an end, he looked at this ummah and he gave this ummah the greatest honor that Allah had ever bestowed upon any nation, which was the job to take up the banner and to take up the torch of da'wah illa tawheed, to call people to the worship of one God alone, to take on the job that only Allah had entrusted to the anbiya before us. That's an honor that Allah bestowed upon this ummah, making us kuntum khayran ummatan ukhrijat linnas. Why? Ta'maruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhana 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. There's a reason why Allah made this the best ummah, because He gave us a job to do that He had not entrusted to anyone else. And He knew very well to pick this ummah as He is Al-Hakim. So He knew that this ummah would be up to the task, because they would follow in the footsteps of the greatest of the Anbiya and the greatest human being that Allah had ever created for mankind. So when the Prophet ﷺ handed this ummah the torch of da'wah on that day, he made us the most honored ummah. An ummah that Allah Azza wa Jal will march in front of everyone on the day of Qiyamah as the largest ummah and the very first ummah, blessed and honored. That's who we are. So where do we get this doom and gloom scenario from? How is it that a Muslim could live their lives in any other parameter other than to say, I am blessed, alhamdulillah. You put me in a palace, I'm blessed. You put me in a dark prison, I'm blessed. You take away everything I have, I'm blessed. My life, I'm still blessed. This is the attitude of the mu'mineen, is that they are blessed everywhere that they go. As the Prophet ﷺ said, that the affair of the believer is strange. It's ajib, it's amazing, that no matter what comes to them is khair for them. If Allah grants them some good, they are thankful to Allah for it and Allah blesses them for it. And if Allah afflicts them with some fitan, some trials, some tribulation, then they are patient with Allah and Allah rewards them for their patience. So there is no source of bad for the true believer. It's all good. Even the bad, even the hardship, even the difficulties, even the struggles are a benefit to those who believe. Because it either erases the sins that they've earned in this life, thus freeing them from answering before Allah about it, or Allah is elevating their ranks in Jannah. Either one of those are fine with me. So let whatever hardship comes, no problem. Allah tests those whom He loves. So if Allah stops testing this ummah, then this ummah should be worried. This ummah should be worried. So our viewpoint, look at it. And then when the Prophet ﷺ handed that torch to this ummah, what did he do? What was his next action? He raised his fingers towards the heavens and he said, Oh Allah, bear witness. Oh Allah, bear witness. 3 times. Oh Allah, bear witness. I have indeed conveyed your message. He was telling Allah Azza wa Jal that you gave me a job to do. Qum fa'andir. Get up and go warn them. Ud'u illa sabil rabbika bil hikmah. You gave me that job and I've done it. And now I have passed that torch and that responsibility on to the greatest ummah. Therefore I have indeed conveyed the completeness of your message. And how did Allah respond? How did Allah respond? So beautiful. Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinukum. This day I have perfected for you your religion. I have made my deen kamal for you. Upon the backs of this ummah, Allah decided to perfect His way of life for mankind. Since the beginning of time, Allah had been sending revelation after revelation, messenger after messenger, slowly evolving this systematic way of life called Islam. It was always based upon the same principle of Tawheed, but the system was always evolving for the change of mankind. But then Allah decided upon the backs of the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, I will declare my way of life for mankind perfected. And I have chosen for you, Islam is your deen, and conferred my ni'mah upon you. That's who we are. That's the legacy that we carry with us every single day. How you can understand that and comprehend that and still have a doom and gloom outlook and vision of the world is beyond my comprehension. It's beyond my comprehension. No matter what they do, no matter what we go through, no matter what plot shaitan puts in front of us, we always will be the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. We will always be here to help humanity. We will always be here to serve the good for humanity. We will always be here to stand up for justice, to stand up against injustice, to spread the glad tidings of Jannah and paradise for those who believe. We will always be here for that reason, no matter what happens, because that's the way our Prophet ﷺ did things. He did not let how people treated him affect his vision of the world. He did not let the names that he was called and the abuses that he suffered change his vision that he wanted to save humanity from its own detriment. That's who we are. And we should never change that because of how we are treated. Because doing so would be a dishonor to the very message that we say we are here to represent. We are here to help the world. We are here to help eradicate injustice, no matter wherever it finds its place. We are here to help the homeless. We are here to help the poor, the destitute. We are here to help the oppressed. We are here to help those suffering from alcoholism, drug addiction, any type of abuse, whether it be spousal abuse or drug abuse or whatever it is. We are here to help. That's the message that this ummah should have. That's the message that this ummah should have, and it's the mission that this ummah should be presenting through its actions, not just its speech. Protests, I cannot find one place in recorded history where protests have accomplished a whole lot. I just can't. I've tried. I just can't. Petitions don't usually do a whole lot. But what can change things is for you to honor your word to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be true and sincere to your covenant with Allah Azza wa Jal, to worship Him and obey Him and to serve humanity. Because then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself confers favor on you. And whomever Allah confers favor on, they find victory. And they find solace in the hearts of even their enemies. As the Prophet ﷺ said, narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha wa radaha, whomsoever seeks to please Allah, even if it's at the displeasure of people, that Allah would become pleased with them and He would cause the people to become pleased with them. Stop seeking your honor from people who don't even possess it to give it to you in the first place. If you want people to like you, that's fine and dandy. You'll waste your life doing that. You'll waste your life trying to get people to like you. I don't care if anyone likes me. I'm not bothered if you like me or not. What I want is I want izzah. I want honor that comes from Allah. Because when Allah honors you, He raises you. He raises you up. And that honor belongs to Allah. Allah is Dhul Izzah. He's the owner of honor. And He's also the owner of the heart of every human being He has created. He is the owner. The Prophet ﷺ said that Allah possesses the heart of every human being between His two fingers. And He may flip that heart in whichever way that He wishes. This is why the Prophet ﷺ used to often make the dua, Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabit qalbi ala dinik. O you who owns the heart, steady my heart upon your religion. Allah turns hearts. You're not going to turn anyone's heart. You can't. You cannot. You barely possess the capability to control your own heart. You ask Allah for the steadfastness of this. This is something that the Prophet ﷺ used to ask for, steadfastness of heart. So how do you think that you, who can't control your own heart barely, will control the hearts of others? No. we need to seek after the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah will honor us through the people. Forget about everything else. Don't even pay it any attention. Our viewpoint of the world needs to be as this. I'll tell you a couple stories real quick. I'm not going to be too long because I know it's a weekday. Musa alayhi salam, his story. We all know it. We forget to contextualize it sometimes. Because sometimes we look, and we've tried everything as Muslims for the past 20 years. I've been Muslim for 18 years now, and I've seen Muslims try just about everything to be accepted and to find strategies to be successful in our da'wah and our communities. And it seems like we're hated more and more every year. The more we do to make them like us, the more they hate us. This is what Allah said. They will never be pleased with you until you become them. The Prophet ﷺ promised us this. Allah promised us this. So what do? We understand that Allah has a plan. Allah is perfect. Therefore, Allah's plan for this ummah is perfect. And if you think Allah doesn't have a plan for this ummah, then your iman is substantially weak and flawed. Allah has a plan for this ummah. He has a plan for the ummah of 2017. We are just trying too hard to do our own thing, not realizing and trusting in Allah's plan. At the time of Musa alayhi salam, Fir'aun had put out an announcement to kill all of the firstborn children of Bani Israel because he was afraid. All the infants, kill them because he had a dream that one of them was going to overthrow him. Correct? So Musa's mother was visited by an angel and told her to place your child in a box, put him in the river, the Nile River, a very big river, and trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect him. Yes or no? Is this not how the story went? So that was Allah's plan. So Musa's mother with iman placed him in the box and put him in the river. But she also sent her daughter to go check where he went. You see, this is a mother's love. Even though she trusted Allah's plan, go watch where he goes. So as the box floats along, where does it end up? Where does it land? You guys know this story. I'm not asking rhetorically. It lands in Fir'aun's backyard. If this was a movie and the commercials started right now, if they had a commercial break, what would you be thinking? Oh, he's dead. That's it. It's over. This plan didn't work. And can you imagine Musa's sister and mother thinking, oh my God, we sent him away to take him away from Fir'aun, and now he's landed in Fir'aun's backyard. This plan doesn't look like it's working. This plan's not working. But then Fir'aun's wife, who had hidden iman in her heart, came and showed favor with Fir'aun to get him to take this child in. And when they tried to look for a suckling mother, a mother to breastfeed this child, he wouldn't take from anyone, correct? He wouldn't take from no one. Until Musa's sister stepped forward and said, look, I know someone whom I guarantee you I'll bring her and she'll take. They said, fine, go get her. So he went and got Musa's mother, brought him. Right away, the baby started to eat. After that, Musa and his mother were both protected under royal guard to make sure that nothing happened to either one of them. You see, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan works. You see, we were given these little brains that are very limited, very, very limited. Trying to understand Allah's plan with this is not going to work. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to have tawakkul. That is trust without understanding. That the plan doesn't look like it doesn't look like it's working, but tawakkul is that you rely upon Allah even though it doesn't seem to make sense. That even though it looks like the plan is going completely the opposite way than it was supposed to, you trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So she trusted in Allah, and Allah made sure that Musa was protected in Fir'aun's house to grow up and become a minister in his kingdom to eventually overthrow him from the inside and free Bani Israel. You see, Allah's plan is peculiar to us human beings sometimes. But Allah's plan is perfect. Perfect. At any time, Musa's mother could have ran off and said, look, we're not staying in this house. This is not working. He's going to find out who this is and kill him. But no, Musa's mother had tawakkul upon Allah. She had complete reliance on Allah Azza wa Jal. There was a story that Ibn Rajab, rahimahullah, writes about a man named Abu Bakr al-Ansari. He was known as Qadi al-Maristan as well, from our Salaf. He was a very pious man known for his taqwa who lived in the city of Mecca. One day he said that he was out searching for food in the city of Mecca. He was hungry. And he came across a bag on the ground and picked it up. Inside of it was a very expensive pearl necklace. and he tied it up and took it back to his home. It didn't belong to him, so he went back out searching for food. Later on, a man was walking around the streets of Mecca saying, I lost a pearl necklace, has anyone found it? So Abu Bakr went to him and said, look, I found a pearl necklace, describe the one you lost and I'll tell you if it's the one I have. It was the one. And the man was offering a big reward for whoever found it. So Abu Bakr went and gave it to the man, and the man tried to pay him his reward and he wouldn't take it. He didn't feel right taking money for giving someone back something that belonged to him. So they fought about it. You know how we as Muslims are. No, I'm not going to take it. No, I'm not going to take it. No, take it. Finally, he walked away and said, I fear Allah, I'm not going to take it. So the man let him go. Later on, Abu Bakr said he could not find sustenance in Mecca or reliable work, so he got on a ship. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says His world is very big. If you can't make it one place, make hijrah. So he was leaving and he got on a ship. And a storm came and broke the ship. And many people died. But Abu Bakr said he was able to hold on to a piece of wood from the ship that blew him to an island. When he got to this island, he couldn't find anyone, so he sat down in the masjid and started to recite Quran. He was known as having very beautiful recitation of the Quran. The people of that island heard someone reciting and they went in and they asked him if he would stay with them, and they would pay him and house him and feed him to teach them and their children to recite Quran. So he found a job there. Later on, they learned he knew how to read and write, so they increased his salary to teach them how to read and write. After a while, he decided that he didn't want to be there because that's not where he wanted to go in the first place. He wanted to go somewhere else, or maybe even back to Mecca. And the people there realized he was about to leave. And they said, no, we can't let him leave. We have to keep him here. How are we going to keep him here? Well, let's get him married. Let's get him married, he ain't going nowhere. So they brought a proposition to him that there was a girl who had just been orphaned, of the most honorable family, of the most beautiful women of that place. And again, they bickered back and forth. Marry her, no, yes, no, yes, no. Finally, he agreed. He gave in. And the nikah was performed and the girl was brought to him. And he said, as he looked up at her, he got to her neck and he dropped his head and started to weep. The girl thought that because she was ugly, that's why he was crying, so she was heartbroken. The people were embarrassed, that, what have you done? And he said, no, it's not because of her beauty or not. But on her neck is a necklace that I recognized. I found that same necklace in the streets of Mecca one day and returned it to an old man. And they started saying, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. That necklace belonged to her father, and he gave it to her before he passed away. And we used to hear him talking about a man that he met in Mecca one day when he lost this necklace. And he said he was the most pious man that he had ever laid eyes upon. And we used to hear him openly making dua to Allah in this masjid for you to one day be married to his daughter. You see, Allah's plan sometimes doesn't make any sense. Abu Bakr didn't realize that the reason he couldn't find sustenance in Mecca, the reason why he got on that ship, the reason why the storm happened, the reason why he was floated to that island was all because Allah had decided to answer the dua of that father, and he had no choice. You see, Allah's plan is perfect. We might not understand it. I'm sure Abu Bakr, while he was floating across the sea, thinking that he's going to die, wish that he never left Mecca. I should have just stayed in Mecca. At least I was safe. Not realizing the whole time that Allah's plan was being put into motion. قَدْرُ اللَّهِ وَمَشَاءَ فَلَا. That it is Allah's will. Allah does as He wishes. You see, Abu Bakr had a plan, and Allah had a plan. And Allah is the best of those who plan. And Allah's plan is always going to overtake anyway. We fight it too hard sometimes. We try to fight with the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if we can't envision it right in front of us, then it's not reality. Sometimes we just have to tawakkul. It means let go. Just let go. Let go and let Allah take care of it. That's the way we have to deal with things sometimes. The hands-off approach. That if there's nothing you can do about it, let go and let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deal with it. That's tawakkul. Allah has a plan. At the time of Dawood alayhi salam, the last story. At the time of Dawood alayhi salam, there was a woman who approached him in his court and asked him a question very angrily. Is Allah just or is Allah unjust? Is Allah just to His slaves or is He unjust to them? It's a very peculiar question. So he asked the woman, what causes you to ask such a question? And she said that I knit things and I take them to the market and sell them. And with the money that I make, I buy food for myself and my children, and I buy more material for the next day, and nothing's left over. And this is how I survive every single day. She lived day to day, check to check, barely getting by. She said, today on my way to the market, a bird came and swooped and took my knitting and flew away. And now I have nothing to sell at the market today and will not be able to feed my children. And this bird is acting upon the fitrah of Allah. Excuse me, it didn't happen that day, it happened a few days before. So she said, now I've had nothing to feed my children. Is Allah just or is Allah unjust? It's a very difficult question to answer. It's a good one. Because this bird is acting upon fitrah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created it to act a certain way, and it's doing what it's commanded to do. As she was discussing this, some men came in with big bags of gold, and they dropped them in front of Dawood alayhi salam. And they said, this is sadaqah for Allah to whomever you desire and see fit that it goes to. And they were strangers to that place. So Dawood asked them, what is the story behind this? They said, we are merchants who travel by sea. And we were on our way here, and a big storm came and broke our sail. And we were not able to steer the ship, so it was just wandering aimlessly, and we thought that we were going to end up dying. And we made dua to Allah that if Allah would free us from this predicament, that we would give away all of our earnings on this boat in His sake. They said, not long after we made this dua, a bird flew by and dropped some knitting material, some thread, yarn, and knitting material onto the boat that we were able to use to repair our sail, thus making it to your land. And so here we are fulfilling our oath to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Dawood looks at the woman and he asks her the same question that she asked him. Is Allah just or is Allah unjust to His slaves? You have a Lord who is working for you on land, at sea, and in the air. Now, is Allah just or is He unjust? And He gave her all of the gold. You see, sometimes Allah's plan does not make sense. Sometimes it feels like we're at the bottom of the barrel. That maybe your personal life is in shambles right now. Maybe you have family problems. Maybe you have all kinds of financial issues. It looks like the ummah is scraping the bottom of the barrel right now. Everybody hates us. They're banning us everywhere. The anti-Muslim laws being established left, right, and center. So this plan doesn't seem to be making any sense. It doesn't seem like anything is working right now. But I know, with no doubt, with no reservation, no hesitation, with a smile on my face every day, that Allah's plan is perfect. Might not make sense to you or I. I might not even live long enough to see it. But I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a perfect plan for this ummah. Our job is to simply do what He asked us to do. To have faith in Him. To worship Him alone. To obey Him. To help humanity see the light of Tawheed. To help the poor, the needy, the destitute. Those who can't help themselves. We as Muslims in the West have nothing to complain about. We are blessed beyond reason. We look on the news or we see charity fundraisers and we feel sorry for the people, like the people in Syria or the people when there's earthquakes in Pakistan or other areas, and we jump to arms, ready to run and help the most that we can because we feel, and we don't do it out of a desire to worship Allah most of the time. We just feel sorry. We feel guilty. We feel sorry for those people. We look at those children who are being pulled out of the rubble, faces covered in dust. And yeah, it pains me. I have 3 children, alhamdulillah. Hurts me as a father. And we feel sorry for them. In reality, it is us that we should be feeling sorry for. We sit at night in our nice, warm, comfortable homes on our cushy couches. We have a refrigerator a few feet away where we can open and it's stockpiled full of food. And if there's nothing in there, we could hop out to the corner shop or the Tesco or whatever, and we have so much luxury. Go from our heated homes to our heated cars to our heated offices. We have everything that we could need to survive in this life. Even more, we live a life of exuberance in the West, and yet we complain. We complain. There are people who are suffering like that and they don't complain. They don't complain. I met a woman one time in Mandera, Kenya, when we were going to build a well there. And we asked her, how are you going to feel when this well is built? Are you going to be happy? She said, no. I said, what? She said, because I'm afraid if life becomes too easy for us, we'll forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If things become too easy for us, we'll forget Allah. This was a very old lady. The wisdom. You listen to the elders. Trust me. Old people have a lot to teach you. She said, if things become too easy, these young ones that didn't grow up like I grew up struggling for everything will forget to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's deep. That's deep. These people who are being dropped bombs on them and buried under the rubble and slaughtered innocently, I don't feel sorry for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I'm happy for them. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is choosing an end for them. He's chosen an end for every single human being that's ever going to walk the face of this earth. And that's the end He chose for them. And I think it's because He loved them. Because no one meets that type of an end without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loving them and having some beautiful reward waiting for them in the next life. You get chosen for that type of ending. Those of us who are going to die alone in our beds, we're the ones that should be worried about our own affairs. We should be worried about our own affairs. Because in reality, 5 years ago, 10 years, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, nobody was worried about the people in Syria. Yeah, nobody was worried about. Syria was known as a hotbed of clubs, right? Damascus was a nightclub hotbed center. People used to go there just to party from Europe and things like that. Am I right or am I wrong? Please somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Damascus used to be a tourist spot for nightclubs, just like in Beirut now and before. Where were our fundraisers then to bring them out of their darkness, to save them? We could care less then. But now when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts them to the test, now we have concern. Now, oh, we're up in arms. Oh, what a travesty. No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is purifying the ummah. I haven't seen any fundraisers for Dubai lately. Have you? Are we having any fundraisers to save Dubai? No, we should be. Dubai is, astaghfirullah, it's a problem. A problem, trust me. How many of you been to Dubai? Raise your hand, you've been to Dubai. Come on, don't be ashamed now, raise your hand. Yeah, you know. Just a walk to the Fajr at the masjid can become a solicitation. I've seen it with my own two eyes. Astaghfirullah. But now if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to test Dubai, fundraisers. Help Dubai, the suffering. We need penny appeal, pound appeal. Come on, donate your money. This is what we are, reactionary. We have no plan. We have no purpose. We're just wandering aimlessly until something happens that triggers us into doing things. That's just how we are. We're like a sleeping driver on the highway that doesn't react until there's a car horn blaring in front of us. Oh, we need to get back on the road. That's how we react. No, we need to prepare and plan. But at the end of the day, we need to rely upon the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed certain things. Allah Azza wa Jal acts towards this world in a certain way, His sunnah. He doesn't change it for you or I. Our job is to control that which is within our capacity to control. And as soon as it becomes out of our control, we have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon it. That's it. That's it. That's the reality. So they can laugh at us all they want. They can mock at you all they want. They can call you whatever they want to call you. They can put whatever referendums. They can put whatever laws, whatever bans, whatever. Go ahead. Do whatever you want to do. Because at the end of the day, we are going to continue to share this beautiful message that we are here to help the world. That we are here to better humanity. And we have to accept the responsibility. I close with this. We have to accept most of the responsibility of why the Muslims of the world are viewed the way they are today. Especially the Muslims in the West. We carry so much burden. So much. This ummah, the ummah of the West. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to believe me. You can say it's totally Yusha's opinion. But the ummah of the West will be questioned heavily on the day of judgment. Heavily. Because we carried the banner of Tawheed in a land that was lost. And we spent decades upon decades, if not generations, doing nothing about it. And nothing with it. Nothing with it. Not particularly presenting the message the way we should have done. How long have Muslims been in Britain? Yeah? How long have Muslims been in Britain as a substantial... When did you guys start coming here? 60s? 50, 60 years ago? 50, 60 years ago, almost 2 generations ago? Am I correct about that? Almost 2 generations have gone by. And yet, if there was a referendum taken, just like the Brexit, called the Muslim Brexit, and the referendum was to decide whether Muslims would be allowed to remain in the UK. Yeah, you're not allowed to vote. You can't vote. But the rest of the majority, all of the country, the majority of the country turned out to vote whether or not you should be able to stay or you should be asked to pack your bags and go back to wherever you came from, or wherever your parents came from, or anywhere else but here, tomorrow. What do you think would be the outcome of this vote? If you don't think you would be gone, then you've been fooled. You're living in a fool's paradise. They would vote you out so quick that your heads would spin. And the fact that that would happen after 2 generations of Muslims being in this country, and after Muslims being, how many of you, 4 million of you almost in here? Almost 4 million Muslims on this rock in the middle of the North Atlantic, and they would still be able to vote you out, is only your fault. You cannot blame anyone else for that. You cannot blame the media. You cannot blame anyone. That's your fault because you have not done your job to affect the society for change towards good. You failed in that respect. Our job is very simple: to affect this community in a good manner. It doesn't always have to be direct da'wah, shoving Islam down people's throats. This is not all that da'wah is. I don't know who fooled some of these brothers into thinking that this all da'wah is let's get a microphone and a loudspeaker and go stand on Coventry Road and scream at people all day long, and that's da'wah. Alhamdulillah, you're doing some da'wah. And you're not doing, bro, that's not da'wah. That is a part and parcel to the religion, and da'wah is a part of speaking and calling, yes. But your actions need to be preceding that far before you ever open your mouth. If you've not been putting in the action, you don't even deserve the right to open your mouth and say that Islam is here for the betterment of the United Kingdom, when you haven't done anything to prove that. When there are homeless people in Birmingham and the Muslims aren't out doing anything about it. When there are poverty in Birmingham and the Muslims are not on the forefront. I'm not saying that Muslims are not out doing anything about it. I know there are organizations out there, but that cannot be the end all have all of it. It needs to be so clear cut that the Muslims are on the forefront of poverty, of homelessness, of drug addiction, of spousal abuse, and eradicating it in Birmingham, that they couldn't talk about it in the media without mentioning you. That's the way it needs to be. That they couldn't even open up their mouths about homelessness in Birmingham without having to mention how much the Muslims have done to support it and eradicate the cause. That's da'wah. That was the da'wah of our Prophet ﷺ. Undeniable facts throughout history of what he has accomplished. Yeah? A man of very few words, but his actions live on, written in stone in the history of time. That needs to be the legacy of this ummah. If not, you cannot blame anyone for your predicaments and your situations except you. That's reality. We need to take responsibility for us. We owe an apology to the world. We do, wallahi we do. We owe an apology. First we need to make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our dereliction of duty in the da'wah. Because da'wah is more than just about calling people to accept tawheed. That is the core behind it. But it is to help and serve humanity. Help and serve humanity. So we owe an apology to the people of the West that we have not done our job. That we have not presented Islam in the manner or with the particular mannerism that it has deserved over the past couple of generations. But we will do better. Just give us an opportunity to show you what we can do. Let them keep screaming and yelling and saying that we're this, that, and the other. Don't pay it any attention. Keep moving. Keep it moving. That's the way you do, the street kids. Keep it moving. That's it. Don't worry about what the haters say. You keep it moving. That's what this ummah needs to be focused on. Forget what the haters say and keep it moving. Because your actions will speak louder than any words can ever be put against you. My grandfather used to tell me, he was a John Wayne fan. My grandfather was an old Western guy. He used to always tell me that a man is known by his deeds. A man is known by his deeds. Because I used to tell him a lot of things that I want to do with my life. He said, okay, man is known by his deeds, not by his words. This needs to be what this ummah is about. In 2017, we need to become about our deeds, our actions, putting some a'mal out there. And the Imam, in the ayat that he quoted tonight during the khutbah, talking about Allah's commanding an ummah, يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, an ummah that calls and commands towards good, commands to good and forbids evil. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Allah promised that they would be successful. Allah promised that. So if you're not successful, then there's something wrong with what you're doing, because Allah has given that promise and that success to you in His book, that if you'll do these things, He will grant you the success. Call this to an end. Any questions? Okay, you know what they say about a talk with no questions, or a presentation with no questions? One of two things happened. Either you understood everything I said so clearly and so crisply, and it was so blatantly understood that you do not need to even question a thing about it. You're ready to go get to work. Or number two, you didn't understand a single word I said, and my bloody American accent was so horrible that you just were nodding along just to be nice to the guest, and you're just ready to get out of here so we can get this over with. So hopefully it was the first one, right, other than the second one. Okay, barakallahu fikum jama'an. Inshallah, I look forward to seeing you guys again here in Birmingham. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Do you ever get worried that your child may click on the wrong video online? Do you wish there was a safe channel for your peace of mind? Well, there is. The #1 rated Muslim kids channel in the world, One for Kids TV, is here to solve all these issues. The channel has no advertisements and is safe for your children to browse and watch their favorite videos. With a wide selection of cartoons, songs, educational videos, and much more, your children will not only stay entertained, but also learn so much about their deen. You can listen to songs while your device is switched off, and you can download videos to watch them offline. One for Kids TV is 100% run and owned by Muslims, which means the small amount you pay for your subscription is a continuous charity for you, as all the funds raised go towards the production of new cartoons and educational films for your children. The One for Kids TV app is now available on Apple devices, Apple TV, Android devices, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku, so you can watch on most devices and smart TVs. Download now for a free 14-day trial.